Hello folks, this is a short tutorial on how to manipulate MIDI events and make something interesting using something called step time sequencing. Step time sequencing stems back from the days of hardware sequencers where with a series of buttons you could actually program crotchets, minims, quavers, what have you, certain pitches, certain note lengths, just by pressing a series of buttons, string them all together, press play, and it will play it all back to you without you actually having touched a music keyboard. Real time is where you press record and record the MIDI events playing the piano keyboard, so to speak. So this was actually programmed in real time. I'm going to use some step time techniques to further the idea. So just to remind you, MIDI is not audio. You can see in front of you a whole load of dashes. These dashes represent data. And for example, I'll just zoom in a little bit. We'll select one as well. So each of these lines here, take this one here, that means MIDI note on. That's the start of the note. That means MIDI note off. And within that is going to be information about which note is being played. You'll see that more clearly down here next to the notes on the keyboard. How hard it's being played, i.e. how much velocity. Down here, the blues and the greens have less velocity than the yellows, reds and browns. And a whole host of other control information as well that can be added into these. But that's about all the information I'm using for now. So at the moment it's playing a Steinway grand piano, which is one of the presets on the Logic Pro X sampler. But I could switch out to play strings, guitars, whatever. I could actually set it to play an external instrument if I wanted to. External MIDI instrument, of course. So this is what I programmed. Okay, I've set it to loop as well by selecting a region here and putting the loop button on. And this is a kind of loop that I'll play over and over again. Now, you get bored of it eventually, but it's meant to be very mellow in background. It's meant to accompany a moving image shot in my garden of some nice nature things going on. That came out awful. I've got some serious work to do there. You're never going to see that. But there we are. I'll redo it. It was for another student exercise. But I'm going to talk about the various effects and things that are plugged in and how I've made this sound in another tutorial. But for this particular tutorial, it's about manipulating the MIDI. So this could repeat over and over, as I was just saying, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to duplicate this and make some variations using step time sequencing. So there's lots of ways to copy and paste. So you can do edit copy or Command C, Command V, edit paste, but there is actually a quick way of doing this in Logic, and that is just select all your parts, hold down the Alt key, click on your, not like that, try that again, select your parts, press the Alt key, and then click on your trackpad or on your mouse, drag it and drop it, and it drags and duplicates at the same time. Very handy. So now that I've done that, I'm going to want to make sure that I extend my loop so I can hear the. Now, there's not actually anything different here yet. It's still the same loop. I've just done it over 16 bars instead of 8. Notice I don't start from the beginning here. This is to make sure I do catch the MIDI note on. A little technique for your MIDI sequencing is try and start from bar 2 or something, just in case you need to go in and find the start of that MIDI event when you try to do your real-time recording. So what I'm basically going to do here is that when it gets this bit, instead of repeating, I'm going to use some step time techniques to have a go at changing the second piece. So this time I'm going to make the melody in this top line slightly different. I'm going to raise this one up. See what that sounds like. I just feel it needs to go up. Okay, don't need to be particularly skilled at music to think, I know it needs to go up. Maybe you don't know which note it needs to be. At the moment, I don't know whether it's going to fit with the harmonics underneath, but let's give it a listen. but it's okay. It's a little bit of a clash. You could leave it like that. Because I've got both selected here, by the way, you've seen both lots of MIDI in the piano roll, which is really handy. I'm going to see what happens. I'll take that down now. That might be awful, but let's see. Oh! I think it needs to be down there, doesn't it? I felt they need to go down, but I didn't think on what note it should be. See, that's quite nice. And it's a bit like Blue Peter, because here's one prepared earlier. Right, so just extend this loop here. My old music teacher at school would be like, "Oh, that's not Bach chorale, that's not correct." You know, so in terms of harmonic structure and progression, I'm sure it's not correct, but I quite like it. So here, this is what I ended up with. Right, okay, I don't know whether you could spot the differences there. I could make it like one of those pictures where you have to spot the difference between two pictures and see how many you can find. But just point out a few. Obviously, the progression changed over a few bars here. I also changed that run up at the end the second time round to be more chromatic. So the second one there, the last notes are much closer together. So if you're not quite sure what you're doing with the keyboard and want to make some variations, just fiddle on, because the beauty is if you don't like it, just pop it back or delete it. You know, you can't do any damage. So that's the first thing I was showing my students this morning. They couldn't hear it because of Teams. But I hope that's some help to some people out there. So in the next tutorial, I'm going to be looking about how to soften the sound to make this more delightful. And I'm also going to do a tutorial on effects chaining as well. And this will be like a little series. So thanks for watching so far.